Stream's up.
A lot of them there. Hello, streams.
You're not on it yet. Shut up.
Oh,
God. You're so impatient.
I am.
Always ruin his productions.
You're the reason why my production.
That's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
You're the reason.
No reason.
I'm not a perfect. Oh,
Fuck,
sorry.
I got a commercial in your stream? For fuck's sakes.
What, Steve?
I got a commercial in your stream. I'm not happy.
Oh, yeah, you are not a subscriber anymore, remember?
I am not. Here, use Prime Sub.
You
Yes.
said fuck off, sneak thief.
Yeah, fuck off, Sneak. Bought your last car.
God, I wish. All right, we are rocking and rolling. There we go. Super Nerds on the Super Nerdy Book Stream, talking about books that we read at the same time that Steve read another book.
I like to sleep on mine, and it just
osmosis
in my head.
There you go. We got Canned and Tam Tam up there. Tam Tam has Odie. Odie, chilling out. Steve there in the blue. Hey, Steve, looking good. Modus is looking down on us. Hello, Modus.
always looking down. Looking down. What?
I don't know. Maybe the camera is like
King of the
below.
castle. King of the castle.
Lean in like real close and
Damn you, perspective.
Yeah. See,
it's like you're in a huddle.
all right, team.
And break.
Whisper, whisper, whisper.
We read a book together today. Well, not. I mean, like probably Steve read the whole thing today, but we actually took our time. Hopefully,
The wind through the keyhole.
read the whole thing together. Hopefully, maybe not. Who knows?
I read it all today, man.
Book
All this morning.
445.
Well, I am glad that we got it done.
Yeah.
There's
Like when you
actually-
asked me if I was finished, and I told you where I was, and then I realized I had a long way to go.
Yeah, I didn't want to say anything actually.
Yeah.
We did do quite a lot of reading though. We put off this meeting twice. We've actually read two sections of the book. The first section being the beginning and like the setup, and then we moved into the middle of the book, which is like the story within the story. And this actually was written after he finished like the entire series, so he kind of wrote it and then like wedged it in between book 4 and 5.
It says it in the opening.
Yeah, as the foreword, I guess.
Yes. And it's only 264 pages, but it was very deceptive.
If you read throughout the week, it's only 264 pages.
Well, it's actually been 2 weeks, guys.
Yes.
Believe it or not.
It's good to be back.
I definitely enjoyed it. For a lot of folks, this was their first time through, including some folks who have read the rest of the series. I definitely enjoyed it. Especially, I remember the first time I was very impressed with just kind of how it just felt like it fit. I didn't get a chance to read it in the middle, like of the cycle, kind of like we read it. So I was very happy with how it fit. I did kind of feel like a little bit weird. Wizard and Glass was kind of like the exact same thing, right? It was a story and then like a big flashback and then like the end of the story, and like not a whole lot of stuff actually happens with us in the real world with Wizard and Glass. But in this book, there's some action that actually goes on. It picks up immediately after we've left the Emerald Palace and shoves us like right in.
Yeah. It was hard.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it was hard to like break through the shell of this egg, but once we did, I put the whole thing in my mouth. It was
So
delicious.
Stephen King kind of starts us like right then and there, and then what happens is we're along the path of the beam. We meet
Jake
man.
and Oi go ahead.
Yes, we meet a man who is gonna ferry us across a big river. Oi's been acting strange. Everyone kind of like notices a little difference in his demeanor, sniffing the air a lot, staring,
And going in a circle.
yeah, spinning in circles. So it kind of sets us up with this idea that like Oi knows something's up. God, what was his name? Bix.
Bix. Yeah.
The ferryman tells them, "Hey, you know there's a Stark blast coming."
It's the first time we hear of food, or the second time we hear of food other than Gunslinger Ritos.
Oh yeah, some delicious.
Other than the village crossing.
fish popkins, I believe.
Yeah. And he's like, this shit's so good.
Delicious.
He tells him about this rundown town.
Yeah, he says there's an abandoned village up ahead. Just make sure you get there, and you'll be prepared. And he kind of even scolds Roland a little bit because he's like, you should know. That like as a gunslinger, like you should know this. And
Yeah, he told him why Oi was being so weird. He's like, oh well, shit. He's like, oh, duh.
This is a long story, so I'm gonna kind of like gloss over some spots here. Pretty much, he reminds him about Stark Blast. A Stark Blast is what I would consider like an Arctic wave, right? Like a
blizzard, but worse.
Just an absolute like cold.
If you think of Day After Tomorrow, that's
blast.
what I think of.
It's an instant freeze. The trees freeze, the water freeze, like everything freezes, everything dies. If you're caught outside, you're dead. Somehow the Bumblers, they call them Throcken, their old like high speech name. The Bumblers can sense this, and a lot of times people would use these Bumblers to tell them, like when these things happen. They make their way to this kind of rundown, dilapidated bridge. It was called Gook. Do you guys? This it's a I guess the name of the public well. But of course, our boy
Gook water.
our boy Eddie takes that to heart and uses the word Gook as much as possible. I really like when he named the town Gook. It's just a funny word.
Just classic Eddie.
Yeah. Pretty much what happens from here is the Stark Blast hits. They
hold up in a cabin, and
there's a little bit of a risky motion where Oi is left outside, and Jake has to like run and grab him. And Eddie wants to run out and help, but Roland stops him and pretty much tells him like, it's Jake's responsibility, and Jake is.
He should have tied him up beforehand. And Susanna's like, "What the fuck? He's just a kid." And he's like, "Am I right?" And Jake's like, "Yeah, you kind of was."
But he also says like Jake's not really a kid anymore either. He kind of
right. He used to be.
Gives you the
no
impression
more.
like Jake is changing too. What happens from that point is Roland goes into storyteller mode while they're waiting out the Stark Blast, and
they don't want to have them nightmare sleeps. So he's like, shit, what are we gonna do?
Yeah,
storytelling.
Pretty much said like they need to stay awake to feed the fire and kind of keep an eye on their shelter, and then they can sleep the day away the next day because they're just going to be waiting out the cold. So he kind of sets it up to be a perfect, gather round children.
It's like a spooky, scary story around the campfire.
Definitely is. And the story he tells is when he's young. It's a little later, after the business with.
Not too long after.
Right, very, very close after, like the business where he ends up killing his own mother. His dad sends him on a mission and sends him with another one of his friends, one we haven't met yet. His name is Jamie DeCurry. He and
Good old Jamie.
Jamie of the Red Hand. I think they even said he's quiet. No, quiet. There was another nickname where it's like he doesn't speak much. He's a very reserved individual.
I think it's bedwetter Jamie. I think.
Bedwetter Jamie. Thank you,
Yeah.
yes. We joined them on a train ride into Debaria, which is a place close
When
by,
I pictured
still
that-
ruled by the barony, but not necessarily like has had much attention because it's kind of a dying town. On the outskirts of the town is a woman's retreat called Serenity. Roland knows of it because his mother spent time there. And something that I think is hilarious is the story starts out where the train just like falls off the tracks.
Oh damn it! It's done it again.
and they call it Sawtooth, right?
I thought of this is Bat Country. You don't get out in Bat
Stop
Country.
here. I've had a Sawtooth of my own a few times, so I giggled at the name of the train. To me, that implies the existence of a big toot, which is even funnier. So the train derails, and the horses freak out, and there's not like many cars attached. It's not like a big deal. The railroad to me kind of seemed like it had been mostly abandoned anyways, and they derail pretty close to this women's retreat. The conductor warns them of the dietary particulars of these women. You guys remember what he told them?
They eat the men.
They eats the men's. Beware the women folk.
There's also the mention of the what do they call it? The long stick.
You know, the diddle stick.
The diddle stick. I guess the idea is to imply that these are women who have no need for men. When Roland meets them, he meets Everlyn is her name, and she's the prioress of this Serenity area.
This mountainous woman,
gigantic,
just
absolute Amazon woman.
but very like stoic and like
She
that's
definitely
what
treats
that's
him
what
with
I'm
respect.
picturing.
And what she does is she trots out a nice big table and a decent meal, and then they tell the story of one of their members who was attacked by the Skin Man. Now, the Skin Man, is the reason why we were called out here to begin with, and Roland's dad sent him out. After speaking to a couple of his other teachers, he realizes that one of them, I think it's Vene, believes in Skinmen. And tells him, like what to look out for. Roland didn't believe it, but once he gets out there and he hears the reports, that's what everyone keeps saying. The woman who was attacked at Serenity described it
she's
as
like missing an eye.
an
She's all
alligator.
fucked up. Ran off on its stubby legs.
Yeah, and they said that when they shot it, that it bled black ichor, and not like red blood. So
That was a crazy exchange right there. But this Skin Man, we've heard of lions, tigers, and then obviously I think of and bears. Oh my!
bears.
And then we hear of the crocodile, alligator. It's all kinds of shit. So we end up finishing up with the ladies at Serenity, and then we move over to the town that we're finally trying to get to, and it's damn near dark.
Yeah, we
And the
actually show
conductor's
up
like,
to the town here.
don't be out
We
after
meet
dark.
Sheriff Peavy and a couple of deputies who are not so good.
Which, I mean, that's a running theme so far.
Yeah, I don't think we've met any.
There's been like one or two, but
A lot of the
You-
lawmen do kind of seem to be pretty much useless, huh?
PV kind of hits close everywhere. But PV, he seems like he's still in it for the right reasons. Or at least that's what I gathered from him.
Well, he also tells them that he's done.
After this, he's
After
like,
this, he's
I'm
like, "You
not
know what?
for mystery. Fuck this shit.
No thanks.
I've seen it, and I don't ever want to see that creature-looking thing.
At this point,
But he
it's
ends up telling
pretty
them the story,
late.
too.
They do end up sending someone to go help out with the train conductor and the tipped over train and blah blah blah. But
Yeah.
The real
Check that
focus
off
here,
the list.
It's bedtime, and in the morning they're woken up by the Jing Jang. Now,
Ching chang.
obviously, I think after just a few lines there, I put it together. That's a telephone.
Yeah.
And someone calls and says lots and lots of very scary things. It's happening up at a particular ranch, and when they finally organize all of their ducks and get them all in a row, they make their way up to the ranch, and it's just an absolute scene of horror. Body parts strewn about, blood everywhere, people's faces eaten, animals.
I thought of like a werewolf attack.
Animals murdered. It's definitely,
A massacre.
yeah. There's 16? They said 16 people.
16 people.
Something like that. It was the family. It was the cowboys. It was the cook who lived in. And then, as they're tracking what's going on here, they actually find the cook's son hid up under some old horse tack in the barn, and he tells them that he saw the Skin Man as a man.
Yep.
So sad.
Changes into a woman screaming, from an animal to a woman to a man.
Well, he takes a look at his ankles.
Yep. And he has a blue tattoo.
So
How
they
interesting.
split up at this point. Jamie goes further north to where the salt mine town is, and Roland and the boy travel back to Sheriff Peavy's office, where Roland gets him in a cell, gets him fed, feeds him some candy. The kid's still coming to terms with the loss of his father, so there's like a lot of stuff kind of happen emotionally, and Roland kind of latches onto the idea, like this kid said he's scared of the way the wind sounds, but Roland really likes the wind. And he tells him why, and they ended up back at the sheriff's office. It's now like after dinner and story time, and that's kind of where the actual like wind through the keyhole story starts. Because Roland tells the cook's son the story that he was told when he was a boy, and
Is this Inception? It's a story inside a story.
it's a story inside of a story, and
And it all kind of ties up everything
it's kind
from
of a
the
fairy
beginning
tale,
of the picture
right?
now. Yeah.
It's kind of a once upon a time and
Once upon a pie. Once upon a buy.
once upon a buy is how they started, obviously, in there.
He's like, oh, no, I don't like stories. And if I do hear them, they have to start with Once Upon a Pie.
Well, we find ourselves in the small town of Tree.
Young Tim and
Before I start the story of young Tim and went to the keyhole, is there anything that I missed that is particularly important in the setup here?
That's what I was thinking. The ammunition.
Yes.
the trick that we've seen before.
Yes, Roland
was used
definitely
on the boy.
does some hypnosis.
Yes.
And he talks to
Hey.
somebody.
He talks to the smith
Yes.
about getting something made.
Yes.
Yes, I'm gonna need it by nightfall.
Yes. And he
I'm gonna
pays
burn down
him-
the whole town.
I think he says about 3 p.m. doesn't he?
Yeah, 3 p.m.
He tells him
says.
at 3 p.m.
Like the next day, 3 p.m.
Yeah.
57 grains.
He gets whenever he hypnotizes the boy, he gets a lot more of the information. But this time at the end, he lets the boy leave it in
Yes,
that
he,
time.
he mentions the blue ring tattoo, but he also says the white mark. He doesn't remember what
Yeah.
that is, though. That's kind of how we like hang it up there with this like flashback of Roland's childhood. In the middle of this flashback, Roland's telling a story to the young boy, and that's when we get to catch like the story itself. The story is actually kind of like a fairy tale. It's about Tim Strongheart. Starts off Tim's father and mother.
Tim's
they-
father's a woodcutter.
Yeah,
Mother's
he's working the
homemaker.
Ironwood trail, and Tim's father says as long as he has these 4 things, then he'll be happy. What was it? It was the lucky coin,
Shit.
his axe, his plot, and his place, and what's her name? His wife.
His mother.
Ness?
Nell. Thank you.
Nell.
No.
It made me think of
Yeah.
the movie. No,
Yeah, that's what it made me.
School in the Belly.
Yeah.
So
Tim's
we
father,
learn
Big
about
Ross?
them.
Works with a partner. His name is Kells.
Burn kill.
Baron Kells, and they are partners because the ironwood industry is very dangerous. And while the trees themselves are super,
So first off, it's
valuable.
the Endless Forest.
Yep.
That's an ominous name, anyways.
It's true. The ironwood trade is a very, very, very lucrative trade. The trees themselves, we've only heard of ironwood a few times so far in our current journey. Do you guys
Quartz stick.
Do you guys remember what the ironwood was?
Yeah, quartz stick. Like,
Cord had an ironwood stick.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
beat the shit out of little kids with,
There's more.
as you
I
do.
need one of those.
I think there was a point where the doors in Gilead, especially the ones that Roland was opening and closing, were ironwood. What weren't the
Yep.
doors on the beach? Weren't
Whenever
those-
he was going into the meeting hall, wasn't it?
Yep. Weren't
Doors on the beach were.
ironwood as
Uh-huh.
well?
Yeah.
And I believe,
Okay.
if I'm not mistaken,
So ironwood is, we can gather that it's purchased by those with the touch or that are related to Gilead in some
it
way.
definitely kind of strikes me as like one of those woods that's supposed to be like very, very posh. And it also has like
A lot of magical
it's
properties,
super
maybe.
strong, yeah, and like maybe it does. It's kind of like revered. And Tim's father cuts it down, but they have to have partners when they go into the woods because it's very dangerous. One day, Tim's father's partner comes back without Tim's father and says that he was burned alive and eaten by a dragon.
By a Dagrin.
Um,
The town just echoes.
well,
Everybody's broken and all that shit.
yes, it's a very sad time,
And
but
then-
his partner then puts the moves on Tim's mom. And because
Which
the,
we find out is
the
always
tax
been.
man's on his way, the covenant man is on his way, she's really worried about being kicked out because she can't pay for the barony's
Property.
taxes. So, Burn Kells presents a solution, which I'm sure you guys have probably seen this coming. He says, "Marry me, we'll throw in together, and then we'll both be able to survive moving
And she
forward."
is hesitant, and then they explain the reasons why, but then they're like, okay, well, things may have been, it might be okay.
Well, over and
It
over and over
could
again,
be okay.
she's definitely not looking forward to it, and there's kind of a history there. They were kind of both sweet on her growing up, and she only liked Tim's dad. So even though he
Well-
was kind of spurned, he kind of got over it.
But then you think of the jealous heart, and he's
He's
always
a big
around them.
drinker, but then he
Yeah.
meets a woman who kind of settles him down, and then she dies.
Dies in childbirth, and
Yeah.
he's like,
Yeah.
"I'll never drink again."
He did promise her that he wouldn't drink anymore.
Married, or once he was married, though, I mean, shit hit the fan.
Yeah, it definitely didn't stick, and he was definitely drinking after they got married. He also wasn't making much money because he didn't have a partner to go into the ironwoods with him. Things kind of got rough, but when the just before the wedding actually happens, or was it after? It must have been after. Kells goes to his old house, packs all his belongings, and brings with him like one bag and one big chest. And he treats the chest like it's full of gold. He lovingly caresses it. He wants to touch it. He likes being
Makes me
close
think
to
of
it.
Gollum.
There's definitely something going on with him in this chest, and even Tim notices. Once he moves into the house, though, he's often found sitting on it, smoking or contemplating, or
Stroking
every
it.
now and again he'll like open it up, he'll like unlock it, open it up, and like sharpen his axe or something. Fast forward to Covenant Man. It's like tax time. It's like right around April 15. And
I kind of like how the Covenant Man fucked him up, though.
Covenant Man,
He
yeah,
totally backhanded him.
yeah. Covenant Man definitely shows who's in charge. He collects from the family and then calls Tim to bring him the money. When Tim brings him the money, he jerks him up on the horse with him and tells him a story. The story is, here's a key. You know what this opens. It only opens it once. I think there's something you should know. And then if you want to talk about it, I'll be just up the Ironwood Trail a little bit. Come and see me if you want to talk. And of course, like, Tim knows that the key is going to unlock the chest.
There's only 2 locks that he knows of.
Yeah.
One's the town hall, and the other is that chest.
Yeah, there's that chest. So, of course, we would, after the incident with the Covenant Man, expect our good buddy, Mr. Burnkells, to go drinking, which he does. And Tim decides now's the perfect time to open this chest up. So, pops the lock, finds, of course, what we suspected. Did you guys...
Clothes.
Did you guys think that he was going to find that in there? Did you guys
No. I thought he was going to find like the head of his father
The
or
head?
something like that.
Just
I thought it was going to be something way
something
more
really gross.
Dark.
something way more possessed.
With the way he was stroking it, I thought it was going to be like Merlin's ball or something like that.
I
Like,
thought
it just
that too.
gave me so many
Very
callbacks.
fantastical. It
Oh,
ended
man.
up being Tim's father's lucky coin and Tim's father's axe.
Which
It's
How
not
the-
supposed
how
to have
the
existed.
Right. If the dragon had actually killed him and burnt him to ash, then everything that he had on him, including the coin and the axe, would also be ash. So Tim knows things didn't go down the way that Mr. Burnkel said they did. And of
But he
course,
also finds a lot of valuables in that chest,
he doesn't
too.
really find any valuables. He finds some
Not
old
really.
axe
They could be
heads and
sold.
and some clothes and
That could all be sold, and they wouldn't have had to worry
Keepsakes.
at all for taxes.
Yeah, he said there was a bunch of other axe heads that he was letting go to
All
rust
rusted.
that he wasn't even using, just hoarding them and making Nell spend all of her money.
This
Exactly.
man is a dipshit.
Yeah.
Everyone
Yes.
yeah, you definitely get a bad
In
taste your
every
mouth with
way.
him.
Yep.
At this point, though, Tim wants to know more, and he makes the choice to load up the mule and ride it into the Ironwood Forest.
Was this one Bitsy? First time?
It was Bitsy first, because Mitzi was the next one.
Yeah. That was the description of him on the horse was nice. Like,
It was a donkey.
feet damn near dragging the floor.
Yes.
Yes, a donkey.
A donkey.
Donkey.
At this point, Tim meets the Covenant Man, and we have a very cool kind of interaction here, which is reminiscent-ish of another kind of fireside chat we've had before. This one, however, starts off with, here's some stew. and like as soon as he's like walking up, he's noticing this Covenant Man using a boot heel to like dig a hole. and he feeds Tim the same stew that he's eating, and then he asks Tim to go get him some fresh water from the basin, but mind the Pookie.
I fucking love that it's called a pookie.
Isn't that
Every
strange?
time I heard it, I was like,
a Pookie snake.
I thought of your dog.
Same.
Like, shit, that thing's gonna lick all over you.
Yeah, for real. Definitely less dangerous than it thinks it is.
Right?
But so we kind of learned that a Pookie is like some kind of a constrictor snake. That's what I imagined.
Yeah.
Like a very large boa or something of those proportions.
Like a Burmese python
big
kind of
ass
thing.
python, something like that.
Not necessarily an anaconda, but
Bigger,
Maybe.
like bigger than most of the snakes that like even we would.
yeah.
See.
So he brings back this water and it's fucking gross, and there's shit crawling around in that water. It's like I was
Homeboy
like,
takes his
"Oh,
magic wand
don't
and started
make him
life
drink it.
as
Don't make him drink it.
Dodge.
dart.
No, something dart. Yeah.
It was a
Dodge
dodge
dart.
dart gear shift. He uses his magic wand, passes it over, the water clears up, passes it again, the bugs are gone, it's perfectly nice, beautiful water. in the
Crystal
silver basin.
clear. He passes it again. Jake's reflection disappears. Or not Jake, sorry. Tim's.
I just want to say at this point, when he pulled out that Dodge Dart gear shifter, this is when you went, holy shit, this is not a side story any longer. We have been pulled back into our same old, what time zone are we in and what the hell's going on here?
There's a when are we kind of feel to this whole.
This is like Arthur Eld times and shit.
Yeah, but like
Well,
it's
they kind
also
of spoke of that.
it's Arthur Eld times, right? It's like
But
they're
not that
they're like
far back,
ancient times for like Gilead, but like
Because it's a long running story.
but then like later on in the story, Tim finds a North Central Positronics device.
But the
So-
gear shifter was the first thing that made you go, wait a second.
Definitely was one of the like, hold on, there's some bleed here. There's something that's like
Yeah.
kind of bleeding over.
And I didn't get that in the Skin Man story so much. It wasn't until this one where I went, there's something
Yes.
different about this.
Exactly. At this point, we are kind of suspicious of what's going on, but he ends up showing him a vision of what's happening to his mother, and his mom's getting her ass beat by her drunk new husband, and
Because he believes she got into the trunk.
right, he blames her for breaking into his stuff, beats her almost to death, but definitely fucks up her eyeballs.
Blinds her with the fucking ceramic pitcher. Pow!
Smashes and just destroys her eyeballs. He shows him something else here too.
He's like panicking, and then he's like, "You should look again. You might
Yeah.
find it peaceful." And then he shows what's her name?
The widow.
The old widow.
Widow Smack.
Smack. She's coming in and getting her and taking her to safety.
Helping her, yep. Brings her back to her house. And
Tim gets sick.
well, not quite yet.
Damn it. His
then,
belly's going.
Then he tells him to go empty his basin, right? Like after he gives him these visions, and Tim just wants to leave.
Oh yeah.
He tells him go empty the basin, but not next to the Pookie Snake, because he looks more interested than he should. Right.
Yeah.
So he goes around the corner a little further down, like the river there, and he finds the almost perfectly preserved corpse of his father, and
In super clear water.
yes, cold water as well. We find out that there was no dragon, but a jealous man with an axe. That spurs him on even longer. He's very much determined to get home, but as he brings the basin back, he kind of everything hits him all at once, and he gets sick, and he trips and falls and lands right in the perfect spot to puke into the hole that the Covenant Man was digging from the beginning. Now,
Yeah, the other thing too is that his father had no marks on the front of him at all.
right, definitely
And
got him
that-
from behind.
Got him from behind, and then he realizes that Kells would have had to throw himself in the fire and burn himself to the point how he looked.
To like
to
fake
make-
it, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, the Covenant Man, he sheds a light on a lot of things.
well,
He tells him how he found
these,
him and everything.
These kind of little loopholes that you actually see it quite often in stories and in movies and stuff, to where it's like, there's that part in the Matrix.
That random ass scene.
There's like there's like that part of the Matrix when Neo's going to meet the Oracle and she can see the future or whatever, and he walks in and she says, "Don't worry about the vase." And then he
And then
spins
pow.
and looks and knocks the vase off. He's like, "Oh, I'm sorry." And she's like, "I said don't worry about it." Right? Like
yeah,
there's
that's the
there's this
shit
kind
that's
of
going
like,
on.
If she hadn't have said anything about the vase, don't worry about the vase, would he have knocked it off? The same thing here, where it's like, how did the Covenant Man know that Jake was going to need to throw up the food that he just fed him? And if he did know he was going to throw up the food, why did he feed him?
It's like
But he had it
it's like an
perfectly timed,
oxymoron.
where he like dug the hole in the exact right spot so that all that would happen. But Jake would then throw up, or not Jake, Tim would then throw up, and then he could say like, like kind of give him that idea, like I knew that was gonna happen. You know, like there's always those kind of weird,
Yeah,
like,
but he
circular.
done it sort of smart too. Like, I thought it was gonna be. It's perfect.
Yeah, well,
Like there was a chance for it to be a little off,
there's definitely something.
but that's modesty. I
but
guess.
but there's something about that, right? Like it's not evil, like a big evil. Like that's not like an evil thing that he did, but it's like
menacing.
yes, it's not.
Would it be more menacing?
It's not welcoming, and it doesn't give you the idea that like this dude's nice. You know, that he's like meddling in these affairs, not because he's trying to help.
Well, see, at first I didn't think he was like being bad. I think he was smart and he was trying to open Tim's eyes. That's what I thought. Like at first, whenever he threw him up on his saddle earlier, I thought he was going to take him to go be a gunslinger boy, but minds go all over the place.
It reminds me of those old Twilight Zone episodes, where the man comes into town and he's promising all kinds of riches and things like that, but there's a price.
Yeah.
Right.
And it seems like everything that the Covenant man in black, whatever we want to call him here, everything he offers, there's a yes, but
there's a hidden cost.
Tim even referenced him as the Man in Black. Whenever he was thinking about the Man in Black.
Did you guys ever watch that? They made it into a miniseries. It was a book first, but it's called Needful Things.
Yes.
That's kind of the
I
same
read
concept,
the book,
right?
but I haven't seen the movie.
The movie was actually like one of his best adaptations. Obviously, it's a great book as well, but like all the stuff that he has given these people, all these items that was appealing to like who they are, had a price. But it was also kind of like they were cursed as well. Like, I remember Rick and Morty doing a spoof episode of it.
I like that episode
where it was like you become completely irresistible to women, but the item itself made you impotent. So like there's some
it's
there's
an
some
equal
hidden,
and opposite.
Yeah, like curse to it that
But
would
yeah,
make like
the
your
entire
greatest
thing.
desire no longer like a valid desire.
The entire interaction with the Man in Black, you did have that evil or dark undertone.
Yeah. There was.
I think we're trained that way too. Are we not trained that way?
We're expecting it. But the way that he says it and the way that he plays with it, it's it makes it bad.
Here's the thing, like, in my opinion, if this guy was here to help, then he would have just killed Burnkells right then. He wouldn't have created this giant weird loop, this mission, this quest, this like you can save your mom but kind of thing, and like, expose an 11-year-old boy to the rotting corpse of their father in the middle of the night in a haunted fucking forest. Like, there's a lot of stuff that, like, as you kind of get more perspective on what's going on, like, the guy could have not messed with anything at all, right? Like, he could have not mentioned it whatsoever. He could have just taken his money and left, but being who he is, like, he stuck his finger in, and he meddled in a situation.
After you get the whole picture, though, was it better? Was it good? After I got the whole picture,
I think the Covenant man just lived up to his reputation of a man of a long life but very little magic.
He did meddle, but I think that most of the people that he meddled with, they didn't have the kahunas to go through their mission.
I definitely think that the Man in Black himself, as a character, kind of embodies what Steve just said. Where it's like he can't stand up and like be a hero or stand up and like be an all powerful villain. But like
it has to be a little balance.
He has just enough like
teetering
influence where like he can go like push a button, or he can go like flip a switch, or like like say the right thing to somebody and kind of create this like new situation where like he influenced it. But it seems every time that he meddles in, he's not necessarily like doing an evil thing. He doesn't show up and shoot someone in the head. You know, he shows up and like
He's
whispers to your
manipulating
enemy
others.
a secret. You know, like things like that, to where it's like he's not
manipulates other
directly
people.
influencing actions, but like
He just pushes the ball
he's like
to
providing
get motion started.
Yes, he like gives that catalyst for like lots of different situations. So
He's
As
the
we've
plot hook.
seen him with Roland in our regular story.
He's the fucking plot hook every time.
as we continue on the story, of course, Tim goes back home, discovers his mom. They send the town around trying to find his new stepdad.
He's disappeared.
He makes his way back home and finds a pail that's out of place and a certain wand stuck in the ground next to it, like a nice little like
Dodge
present-
dart kind of.
like a present
thing.
with a bow neatly tied on top of it. Like it's a brand new setup pretty much. He shows him more visions. Tim uses the wand and he sees more visions, and these visions lead him to pack in some shit and leaving.
And his mother's already blind at this point.
Yes, she
Yeah.
is definitely not seeing. But Tim leaves. He packs a few things, and the visions themselves, I don't remember like the exact like specifics, but there's definitely
House
a house in the middle of the woods.
in the woods.
Um,
That's like the main thing that he's seen. And
he pretty much knows he has to make his way into the dark forest.
the house in the woods, and then he
Doesn't
sees
see,
himself
like,
back home.
He calls it a sigh, but it's like a little green fairy.
Yeah. Did he say beware the green sigh? The green sigh, or
Mind the green sigh, maybe.
mind the green sigh?
He makes his way back to the dark forest, and as he's leaving, he gets caught by the widow Smack. He tells her to like tell his mom that he's gonna come back. That he has to go like find something for her. Says he's gonna help fix her eyes, and
He has to go see his father.
the widow Smack gives him a gun, some bread, a bag, and a gun with some bullets. Not 9 bullets, I believe. He gives him a 4-shot, which I don't know a whole bunch about old guns, but
I just
way that they
pictured 4
described it-
barrels on his.
Yeah, it's like a 4-barrel, but each barrel has its own hammer, and you have to pull the hammer back.
Oh,
to,
was
like,
it a
like fire.
pistol,
Yeah,
or was it more? It was longer.
I imagined it a pistol. You didn't imagine a pistol?
I imagined it just a little.
It was a foot long.
It was like a revolver.
Yeah, like a magnum.
Yeah, it wasn't huge. It was
Yeah.
like, he had it.
He was able to put it in his hip.
He had it in his waistband. So
Yeah. Gun on one side, axe on the other.
Yes,
He's fucking ready, bud.
he's got his dad's axe, his dad's lucky coin, and he makes his way into the forest. The
Making my
green
way
fairy like
downtown.
leads him. Makes his way into at the end of the Ironwood Trail is a swamp called Fagonard. Sounds very scary with a name like that.
Sounds old.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of like Fangorn Forest from Lord of the Rings. The forest that was haunted and awake.
Yep. Okay. That's a good description. So he kind of gets lost in like his childhood ways. It's like he's trying to catch. He's enthralled by this,
Yeah, he's giggling, he's
fairy.
laughing, he's jumping after,
and
it.
he's like stumbling and shit.
Yeah, and the
blindly.
fairy's like leading him to it as well, like making him jump a little further than he can really jump, and
Yeah, he's like hopping over the water.
yeah, getting him like really into the whole like catch and chase thing, and then leaves him. He finds himself
Whoops.
on this weird rock.
It's the only rock he's seen
Yeah,
in this whole area.
really weird rock, just like sitting in the middle of this like gross ass swamp. That's also when the swamp comes alive and picks itself up out of the water underneath him, and guess what it is? It was a dragon. It was a real dragon.
Dun, dun, dun.
He was like
Have a
sitting
weird
on-
twist.
He was like right, but like think about it. Like the Covenant Man told the fairy to lead him to the dragon, and she led him to the dragon to like even so much that like she made him jump on its head.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
is the fairy trying to
He
kill
jumped off pretty fucking quick.
him? Is the fairy trying to kill him?
I think that everything that the it does. Not all of them are bad, but
But it's like why why set him up? Right? Like
that's what the Man in Black's done with Roland this whole time
But
too.
like- but
Puts
like,
him in life or death
why
situations,
wind
and
him up
impossible
and
situations.
then lead him directly to the mouth of a dragon?
Is it to? I think it's to test his heart.
Well, after telling him that a dragon didn't kill his father and showing him the truth, then leads him to a dragon. And
Right, yes.
It's this game.
Exactly. It's almost like he knows how it's gonna end. It's almost like the Covenant Man already knows who this kid grows up to be, and like what his future holds for him, and like this is not like a real attempt to do anything evil, but it's almost like he's like testing
Modeling
the threads
Modeling
of
him
Cobb.
to go.
like testing like how far
That
he can
makes
adjust
sense.
fate, maybe like what
How
he
much
can
he
do
can
that
poke the bear.
actually like how much actual influence he has on the outcomes of like things. So at this point, like the dragon doesn't eat him. He finds himself very
He kneels and like,
yes, very
please
very,
don't hit me.
very very wet, and yeah, like the dragon doesn't eat him. I don't remember like the exact.
The swamp people came and threw a pig at him.
That was, yeah. He was being surrounded by fish. They were starting to attack the little patch that he was on.
And then
And he
I think the swamp
shot.
people saved his ass.
He shot a gun at the fish,
Yeah.
and then he noticed the people, and they were like,
Oh, they were all in the bank looking at him, and then they thought he was a gunslinger.
"Yeah,
Well, what happens is he was trying to jump away from the alligator, like, or you know, I imagined it being like an alligator, but like the like swamp creature with the big jaws that's after him.
yeah."
They
I think of like barracudas.
well, it was climbing up the
Some
bank to get him. It was climbing up the bank to
Yeah.
get him, and he shot its head off, shot it right in the cluster
So
of eyeballs.
probably
and
like
then
caimans.
and then the swamp people were like, oh, maybe he's a gunslinger, because they saw him with a gun.
Mm-hmm. And they all hiled.
Hiled, yes, they all said Heil, Heil, Heil.
It's like the only thing they said.
Trying to make sure I get to the right spot.
They end up coming out to him with a
That's right.
boat.
They came out. They fed tribute to the dragon and then picked him up from the boat.
Yeah, that was crazy. I just fucking done.
Dragon's like used to it probably.
Right? It's like, give me your shit.
The swamp people feed him, help him, keep him out of the water, and then they give him a cool new toy. They try to warn him of the Stark Blast that's coming. They imitate the Bumblers. Can't really see that. It's too much reflection.
It's like
Oh shit!
you spit on the book or something.
Yeah, it's
There
pretty
you go.
dark, too.
It's like just smudge. It's just three little people right here.
Put a new
Yes, I did.
There
There
you
we
go.
go. That's a little better.
a little better, yeah.
And you got the kid over here. Got Tim. But yeah, they end up pulling him back to shore, and they're like trying to communicate with him.
Well, they end up giving him a cool new toy. It's his friend Daria. What did you guys imagine that looked like?
Walkman.
Like a Roomba?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or a
Yeah,
mini
or-
Roomba, like a handheld.
Yeah, like a handheld Roomba.
Maybe like a little thick record.
Or a
like-
Discman.
A Discman would be good, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Daria's got an antenna, and she points in the right way. They warn him of the Stark Blast. They give him some provisions, and then take him to as far as they can take him, and keep pointing him in the right direction. He knows he's after Merlin. He knows he's looking for the house that's in the clearing in the woods. But Daria has a kind of a beacon system where if he points it the right direction, it turns green, turns red when he's facing the wrong direction. So he follows this thing. It's a couple of days through the forest and through the plains, and there's like a whole bunch of like different kind of areas that he finds himself in. But he towards the end of his trip notices the bumblers. They are around him while he sleeps, and he actually comes on them one night in the moonlight, and they're all facing north, and they're all spinning circles, and they're all sniffing the air, and they're giving all the signs of Stark Blast. And that's when Daria kind of becomes more urgent. She wants to tell him more information, but she's being held captive by this thing called Directive 19.
19.
She can't really tell him what's happening, but she's dropping hints, and she eventually drops a super super big hint by using his real name. She had been calling him Traveler the whole time, even though he told her not to. She says to him, "I advise you to hurry, Tim." He has to cross this really scary looking bridge, and on his way across it, the ravine below grows tentacles and reaches out to him, tries to grab him. He makes it across the bridge and around. I believe he has to go through a waterfall.
Yes.
Yeah, he goes through a waterfall. He sees a cool little note written on the wall. Did you guys see the note? It was like a Bible verse.
Yeah, 3:16.
Yeah, John 3:16. Fear hell, hope for heaven. Man, Jesus. Dead man is inside the cave as well. He finds some stairs in the back of the cave, and finds himself at what is called the North Forest Kinnick Dogan.
For a second there, I thought he went through a door. That's just the way the transition seemed to happen for me. I was kind of questioning that.
The
a bit.
waterfall was a door.
Possibly, but I guess it kind of kept the same kind of setting around it.
Or it was a secret tunnel.
It says not far ahead, the great old trees pulled back in a long, long upslope. He had been climbing ended in a clearing far larger than the one where the bumblers had danced. An enormous tower made of metal girders rose into the sky. At the top was a blinking light. I imagine a cell tower or like a fire tower in the woods.
Some sort of mini high rise with a blinker with a beacon on top.
Yeah. Once he gets out into the clearing,
I like how the Roomba was trying to advise him to not go here.
No, this was his.
Oh, this is right after this.
This was his destination. It was the green light was bringing him here. She just kept trying to get him to detour. There was a bunch of detours.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to see a side, or do you want to catch this
Yeah, she was like
landmark?
urging him to go somewhere else.
Well, she was directing him there the whole time. That was where she was pointing. He makes his way into this clearing. He notices something in a cage. A tiger, right? Tiger in a cage.
Yes, sir.
Tiger in a cage.
Tiger. Tiger.
Tigre.
Yeah.
Uh,
I spell it wrong. Like, why?
I don't know.
Maybe it looks different because it's bigger or something.
You know how they have like a wolf and they have like a dire wolf? I think maybe like a tiger and then like a tiger.
Tigre.
I don't know though. Giant fucking tiger in this cage, and this is when we
Where
get
was
hit with our first set of riddles. Around its neck was a silver collar. From this hung two objects, one like a playing card, the other was a key with a strange twisted shape. So we see keys on the tiger's neck.
We think we're in a Saw movie for a second here.
Yes, we're wondering
we didn't see keys yet.
if you want to play the game.
Because it's urging old Tim to shoot. But he chooses not to.
Daria
And then the
advises
tiger
him that
listens.
the extreme temperature is coming. You should seek shelter. He says, what about the tiger? Is it a guardian of the beam? I can't leave a guardian of the beam out here to die in the Stark Blast. So Tim is saying, like, I can't leave the tiger here. Daria tells him this was pretty cool. The guardian of the beam at this end is Aslan. Aslan is a lion, and if he still lives, he is far from here in the land of endless snow. This tiger is Directive 19. This tiger is the magic of which I spoke. Never mind it. Seek shelter. Good luck, Tim. You have been my fur. And then she's done. Daria dies right there. She tells him, leave the fucking tiger and go save yourself. Tim, of course, can't do that.
Because it's locked.
The words "all here are dead" scrawled on the door. He can't make his way in. There's a keyhole, but no key. And of course, it makes sense, right? The key card and the key that he saw on the tiger is what he needs to get into the box. Then, of course, he goes to the cage and can't get in the cage because that needs a key too. So what does he do? He notices another pail, like the last pail that he had before, with a message. And a key. The note read something like... let me find that. There we go. The key to shelter hangs around the tiger's neck. As you may have guessed, this key opens the cage. Use it if you dare. With all regards to your mother, whose new husband will visit her soon, I remain your faithful servant. Signed RF/MB. Pretty much challenges him to be brave again here. Gives him the key to the tiger cage. And then has to, like, poke fun at him about his mother, who's now in danger again. Which, in the middle of all this, also we can't forget the Stark Blast is coming. Tim has to make a choice here, and he's constantly choosing to help the tiger, right? In the face of all these difficult situations, the new key, the tiger itself, the dragon, the alligator people, like the swamp family, like all that kind of like constant things put in his path, and he continues to like move forward. He continues to make the right choice here, and there's nothing different in this part either. He comes in, talks to the tiger, gets the key off the tiger's neck, opens the door for the... Oh, hang on. We skipped a part because...
He mentions that the Covenant man expected him to kill this tiger.
Yeah, because he did
But
have a
he's-
gun, but
He had it. It was drawn, but he put it away, and then that's whenever he got the key card because the tiger put its head up. Then they went into the building.
they went close to the building, tried to
Box.
open the door, and then the tiger kind of points his attention to the metal box with the engraving. He tried the weird-looking key into the box, and it fit perfectly. And then, this is the next part of the riddle. When he opened the lid, there's 3 items in there: a white feather, a small brown bottle, and a plain cotton napkin. It says of the sort that were laid out on the long tables behind the tree meeting hall before each year's Reaptide dinner. So, it's like a tablecloth type napkin.
Yeah, the big thick ones. So he's starting to take him, and then the feather takes flight. The tiger grabs it and gives it back to him.
Yeah, grabs it.
And then he
Put it in
tucks
his
that
belt
into his
beside father's
waistband.
axe, not thinking about it. Next thing he did was try to like make his way around, but the tiger then gets his attention and he's holding on to the napkin. And every time they unfolded the napkin, it continued to get bigger and bigger. This is kind of the
He like shook it.
kind of. Side Tiger had picked the napkin up by the corner and had unfolded to 4 times its normal size. The napkin had grown to the size of a towel. The tiger held on to the end of the thing until he was sure that Tim had it, and then he let it go. And then Tim realizes he can keep unfolding this thing, so the towel became a tablecloth. He held it up in front of him, and although the rising gale continued to storm past on both sides, the air between his face and the hanging cloth was dead calm and warm. So he discovers that they can like make this cool little fort out of this like weird napkin that continues to get bigger as you unfold it. So him and the tiger then get under the sheet and wait out the storm.
Tiger's ass is hanging halfway out.
No, tiger's in there. Tiger's in there.
He was out a little bit, but then they like were interacting as if they slept together often. They're like elbowing each other because they're taking all the covers and shit.
Yeah, it said that it was very large and half its body lay outside the thin white covering. Then Tim half rose, fighting the wind, and shook the sheet again.
Yeah.
There was a rippling sound as it once more unfolded. This time became the size of a lake boat's mainsail.
Yeah. That's fucking huge. But then again, that makes you think of how big the tiger was.
Yeah, and also, like, how big does this towel get, do you think?
I don't know.
I need.
Yeah, for
Right?
real.
And as long as you keep on shaking, I mean, I'd buy one. Or
Well,
a
they
couple.
have cute little cuddle time as they sleep under the towel. I guess he says
Tagara starts purring and shit.
he had good dreams. Yeah, things were okay. He also this is one of the parts that I thought was really neat. At some point it says there it is. Time is a keyhole. Yes, I think so. We sometimes bend and peer through it, and the wind we feel on our cheeks when we do, the wind that blows through the keyhole, is the breath of all the living universe. He's having this dream where he's like flying over, flying on the wind that blew through time's keyhole, away from the edge of the Great Canyon, over the endless forest and the Faganard, and above the Ironwood Trail, past Tree, just a brave little nestle of lights where he rode the wind, and farther on, oh, very much further, across the entire reach of Midworld, where a huge ebony tower reared itself into the heavens. I will go there. Someday I will. It was his last thought before sleep took him. There's a vision, a dream of the Dark Tower, and he immediately says, I'm going there. I think that's a really important part of it, of the story. There's like a almost like a dreamlike state for a lot of these characters when they finally realize, like that they would go hunt the tower for themselves, with or without Roland, or like they have a desire to see it themselves. It's a very strong desire.
Well, isn't this story originated from something his mother had read to him?
Yes, something that he had heard when he was a very small child.
Before
part of
the
the seeds
glass.
had been planted in.
At this
before the
point,
wizard's glass.
Yep, the tiger's hungry. They share a sandwich. Went back to sleep. They're like waiting through this Stark blast. They have like a weird like tiger person conversation. The tiger's very interested in Tim addressing the brown bottle. When he finally gets it out and looks at it and opens it up, the tiger opens his mouth. And it was obvious like what the tiger was looking for, right? He's like, hey, let me get some of that.
There's a little concern, but he does it anyways.
Yeah, he puts it in drop by drop, and when the tiger was done, he said, just close your mouth and I'll know that it's over. After the little tube about halfway empty, 4, 5, 6 drops, suddenly the tiger's skin begins to ripple and bulge, and he does his little magical change thing, and becomes, guess who?
With a conical cone hat and a beard.
Merlin of the Eld stood revealed before the wondering boy. Merlin shows up. There was some speculation in previous books that the Man in Black was Merlin, and
Yes.
I think this is the definitive answer that he is not. Merlin is mostly retired. He actually ends up telling him he's mostly retired these days. Doesn't really do much.
This will be interesting to watch through the rest of the series to see whether or not there's anything that causes problems with this.
Okay, yeah.
Because the first 4 books we've been told it could be one or the other, right?
Right, yeah.
Now this new book that was tucked in says it's not.
At this point, Merlin tells him, hey, careful of those last few drops in that bottle. You're going to need them because that's how you fix your mother's eyes. They do have a little bit of talk. Trying to make sure I don't miss anything that's important.
He starts to talk and they're going about. He's just in awe because this is Merlin. Or Marilyn.
Well,
That's how I'll pronounce it in the book.
he tells him that it was his little joke to put me in the shape of a great cat, although not in the shape of Aslan, for that's magic that he can't do, although he'd like to, or he'd like to slay Aslan and all the other guardians so the beams collapse. And Tim's like, the Covenant man, and he's like, no, not him. Little magic and long life's all he's capable of. No, Tim, there's one far greater than he of the broad cloak. When the great one points his finger from where he bides, the broad cloak scurries. But sending you was none of the Red King's bidding, and the one you call the Covenant Man will pay for his foolery, I'm sure. He's too valuable to kill, but to be hurt, to punish? I think so. We kind of get a little bit of a glimpse here. I'm not sure if we've heard this name before, but the Red King.
I think
Right.
we have heard it once.
It didn't strike a chord with me at all who this could be or where this was from.
There was a place when we got off of the dead body of Blaine into Kansas, where there was some graffiti that said "All hail the Crimson King."
Yeah, it's crimson. Okay, that's
Yeah.
Which is close to red.
Yes, that's kind of the same color there.
Yeah. Could be his cousin or something.
The artist formerly known as Red. He's not Crimson.
What was that?
And I think we're led to believe the Crimson King is in the Dark Tower.
He's at the top.
Yeah, there's a place where that's actually what I was looking for. There's a place here where he tells him that that's only the first gun you'll wear and the lightest. And Tim tells him guns aren't for me. I just want to be a tree cutter like my father. But then he says you say so with the axe in your hand, but would you say so if 'twas the gun? Would your heart say so? Don't answer, for I would see the truth in your eyes. Cobb will take you far from Tree Village. So he kind of already sees this boy's future as well. He sets him up here as well, where he tells him how to help his mom's eyes, and then he says, "You put the drops in her eyes, and then you must give thy father's axe to her. Do you understand? His coin you'll wear all your life. You'll be buried with it yet around your neck, but give the axe to thy mother. Do it at once."
He starts to get perturbed with them. He's like, "You need to listen to me. Shut the
Yes.
fuck up. I've been a tiger for too damn long. I'm tired of playing. I want to go."
Well, he asks him why. And he says, "Not yours to ask, boy. When Ka comes and it comes like the wind, like the Stark blast, will you obey?" And Tim says yes. He asks him, "Is it true you live backwards in time?" He tells him, "Everyone thinks so, and if I said different, they'd still think it. So, as I live, Tim, the truth is, I'm mostly retired. Have you also heard of my magical house in the woods?" And he says, "Yes." He's like, "What if I told you that I lived in a cave with nothing but a single table and a pallet on the floor?"
Kind of an interesting commentary there.
Yeah.
Right. Do you think they believe you? Nope.
Nope. I doubt folk will believe I met you at all. He said, "Well, that's their business. And as for yours, are you ready to go back?" He says, "One more question. How did the Red King catch thee?" He says, "He can't catch anyone, Tim. He's himself caught, pent at the top of the Dark Tower. But he has his powers, and he has his emissaries. And the one you met is far from the greatest of them. A man came to my cave. I was fooled into believing he was a wandering peddler, for his magic was strong. Magic lent to him by the king, you must ken." "Magic stronger than yours? No, but I was drunk." "Oh," said Tim. But yeah, he gets him to hold on to the feather, puts him on this, he calls it a dibbon, but it's the magic blanket towel handkerchief
Napkin.
sail. Puts him on
This adjustable
there.
fabric.
Tells him one thing. It was think of home, he says, for as someone or other famous once said, there's no place like home. See it
There's the
very well.
callback.
Yeah, you definitely get the Wizard of Oz callback right there. It's kind of a full circle moment for that.
And with Aslan, it's Lion Witch in the Wardrobe.
Lion Witch in the Wardrobe, yep. And he does call it the land of endless winter.
Huh. The Ice Queen.
Isn't that like where we actually pick up if you read Language in the Wardrobe? That's where you like first visit.
Yeah.
Narnia.
Yeah. I like how he's pulled in a lot of old classics.
Yep.
Maybe that's where he gets his inspiration for world building.
I'm sure there's like lots of things that tie in that way as well, but I do believe that he mentions before, like, you know, lots of other types of like fictional worlds.
Places are thin, and
Yeah. I
but
think he believes
not
in that
many
kind
people
of
tie them
leeway.
together. Not many people tie it in, and it's really cool how he's pulling from our culture, our pop culture, or whatever, and cinematic history. Anyways, so where were we at?
Well, he gets on the Divan and rides it home. It lands him right there by the Ironwood Trail. He folds it up and puts it in his pocket. He skirted the town because he didn't actually want to go through the middle answering questions or anything else like that. Makes his way to didn't he go to the widow's house first?
No.
No, he was going straight home,
Okay, he went straight
but
home.
he was worried because there was no mules or carts or nothing in front of the house.
Yep, okay.
They're like,
Here's
how
what it was.
dare they?
The cottage was warm, for the widow had made a good fire in the hearth, which was only now burning down to a thick bed of gray ash and rosy embers. She lay sleeping in his dad's chair, with her back to him and her face to the fire. And although he was wild to go to his mother, he paused long enough to slip off his boots. The widow had come when there was no one else. She had built a fire to keep the cottage warm. Even with the prospect of what looked like ruin for the whole village, she had not forgotten how to neighbor. Tim wouldn't have wakened her for anything. Goes right to his mother's bedroom. She's awake, laying in bed, and they go through their whole, oh, I missed you, blah, 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 Stark Blast. You know, where have you been? I'll tell you everything, but lie back and open your eyes.
And she's thought he was dead for a while, so she's a little panicked, and she's like,
yeah, there's definitely
I'm
like,
not dreaming.
definitely some something of a moment there. He does get her to drop the droppers. He said 1 drop in each eye. He put another drop in each eye.
It's a little higher.
She gets wild and crazy because she starts saying, hey, she can see, I can see it very well. And then it said, you must give thy father's axe to her. He remembers this command. He says, the man who gave me the drops told me to give it to you. That's all I know. She wants to know who. He says it's a long story, one that would go better with some breakfast. He's hungry. She can see again. She wants to make him some eggs.
He's like, no, Mama, I got it.
He's like, yeah, let me do it. So he like leaves.
Goes to cook some damn eggs. You lay down, Mama. I'll bring you some.
He was gonna go wake up the widow to see if she wanted some food. It's morning time. He shook her and realized that this whole time she was dead. She had sat there in the chair dead. Her throat had been slit. It's right around this time that enter the real villain of the story, Mr. Burn Kells.
Who was sitting on his motherfucking trunk.
Yep.
Waiting.
Petting it.
Yes. Grabs Tim, starts choking him, picks him up, grabs the gun from his belt, tosses it aside, said a bullet's too good for meddlers such as you. So's the knife I used to cut the diseased old bitch's throat. It's the fire for you, whelp. There's plenty of coals yet, enough to fry your eyeballs and boil the skin from your thunk. And that is when Nell put Tim's father's axe in the back of Big Kel's head. She says, "I cut the rope so, Chari man." And Burn Kel collapsed dead on the floor.
Made me think of Charyu Tree.
Charyu tree. Definitely.
Charyu is one word and then tree, and we're in tree.
It's true.
Hmm.
Char itself is a high speech word for death.
Dead. And then once she says that, he just collapses, as if the words were the final blow, not the act.
Well, they're safe now. They're sad about the widow. Tim goes back and gets the gun and puts it on his belt at the end of the story. Did I miss anything? Was there anything that I needed to point out that I didn't point out?
I think once we got into that last part, I think we hit everything.
So that concludes our story within the story. Do you know why Roland told the story?
I think it brings up what he knew about the bumblers and the storm and all that, making it relevant to his quartet that he's with now.
But he also talked of the Stark Blast whenever he was a kid too, and then I guess he had to tell the story because of the why he likes the wind. I guess.
So the obvious
Because
reason
of this story,
I think he's telling it to, as young Roland, telling it to the cook's son, the little boy, is because he wants him to be brave. Right? He's reminding him of Tim Strongheart
and he lost his father.
How full of courage, yes, and he kind of wants to give the kid a little bit of a boost.
Yeah.
And Steve, yes, because they're in our current timeline, because they're in a Stark Blast, the Stark Blast is what reminds him of the story. And in order to get to the Stark Blast story, he has to tell them about why he was talking to the little boy to begin with. So we get this kind of almost like a old Western style werewolf-ish story. Nestled inside of that is the Stark Blast story. So,
which also I think relates to Jake and Jake doing his own thing and being kind of strange the last little while. He's kind of showing boys of his age and how they've handled various situations.
Correct. I like how we actually get to meet Merlin.
Yep.
Yep.
And he's not just this all-knowing kind of like fix all your problems,
possibly evil.
He's just the guy, and he's like, I'm mostly retired. Like I was turned into a tiger for a long fucking time, long enough to where like he had bare skin underneath the collar that he was wearing.
That's right. It was on a long time.
Yeah, it was long enough for him to like. This was maybe gonna kill him. Like maybe he was gonna die in that Stark Blast.
Yeah,
but I get a feeling that he's stronger. I mean, we have the Merlin's rainbow, so he's not a little piss on.
But if Tim hadn't been there to save him, like I think the Stark Blast would have killed him.
Right, and everything was trying to push him to have him killed or kill him or leave him out there to be killed by the Stark Blast.
So do you think that Tim would have been there to save Merlin had it not been for the fact that Burnkel's killed his dad?
Yeah.
So even though Burnkel's killing his dad is an act of evil, it's a bad thing to do, did it not spur events into motion?
Something good
to save Merlin?
That just reminds you of everything has an equal and opposite. For every good thing, there's a bad thing. For every bad thing, there's a good thing.
But had the Crimson King not trapped Merlin in the shape of a tiger to begin with,
his father might not have ever died.
To save Merlin from... And then you got to think like the Covenant Man coming in and like poking fun. Like,
but if it's
Merlin told him afterwards, like he's not going to come back. You know, he's going to be in trouble.
But
he's
if
gonna be
it's
in trouble.
Ka, it would have happened in one way or another, some sort of situation similar,
But it's not Cobb because it's the
right?
Crimson King using the taxman to spur something on to give Tim the desire to go to the tower where the Crimson King is.
So is it the Red King's? Is it the Red King's?
Well, that's the
Does
part
he
here.
want him? But he's also wanting him to search out the tower. So
There's a part where Merlin
Ish.
says, "But sending you was none of the Red King's bidding, and the one you call the Covenant Man will pay for his foolery, I'm sure. He's too valuable to kill, but to hurt, to punish, I think so." Tim asks, "What will he do to him, this Red King?" And Merlin says, "Best not to know. But of one thing you can be sure, no one in Tree will ever see him again. His tax collecting days are finally over."
Which is interesting because the Covenant Man is widely known and has all kinds of stories about him and his silver bedpan hanging off the back of his
Yes,
saddle. So,
even Tim's mom remembered seeing him as a little girl. The
so
widow's
are we
son.
talking
age
about
today.
a plan in motion for 40 years? Like,
Longer than that, even.
it almost seems that way, and it's going, why, how?
It's like a
who?
constant game. It's like since he's
Yeah.
fucking with everybody's stuff, isn't he setting it all in motion? Watching and listening to all the rumors and watching people stare at others.
They also talk about how he delights in like small grievances. You know, like he's happy to know about someone snapping their leg, or a horse that died, or someone whose house burnt down, or he
The same
eats,
shit you
eats
got
that
from
stuff
Pink
up.
Rainbow.
Right? Yeah, it's the same stuff that kind of fed Rhea and
Yeah.
kept her like attached to that ball, was just like all the like small evil things.
Despair.
Yeah, like evil as like a capital E versus evil as like a lowercase e is like you've got this guy who wants to like take over the world and burn all the forest down versus like the guy who parks in a handicap spot, or like the guy who like throws coins off of fucking buildings and shit like that. Like it's just
The guy that takes the last fucking parking spot.
someone who would like push a brick onto the head of a small black child. Someone who would push someone
Fucking Jack Mort.
in front of a fucking taxi cab.
In front of a train.
I feel like that character, like that Man in Black character, like he's talked about, like he doesn't have any real magic. He's just
Manipulating others.
He just lives forever, and it's like it always seems like the stuff that he does isn't the big parts. He's not the guy who
That's what he lives off of.
who like knocked down like the entire city of Lud, right? But he did like urge the computer system who's in charge of security to like finally go crazy, and then just absolutely go ballistic on the whole city of Lud and like gas them all.
But then through Roland was what egged it on. He was the variable that set everything else in motion for the Big Bang.
And this is kind of what I'm getting at here. Like this Man in Black just seems kind of aimless right now, and he's just kind of like doing little bits of like whatever small things he's capable of doing, but he doesn't have any real like direction. And then later on, as we meet him, like once Roland's grown up and like made his way like part way through this quest, and like you kind of see this other part of the Man in Black where he's like the opposite of Roland. He's like opposing him, but in a very passive way. To the point where when they finally met in the first book, he didn't fight. They didn't fight. They talked. He like read his future as opposed to like fought him.
As they did with Tim, they had Stu.
Yeah, like he's not there to like be a villain, but he definitely like kind of masterminds a lot of these situations, and he's constantly leaving traps behind. Remember that? Like we talked about how he's left traps for Roland, and then like everywhere he went, but it's always like now it's like targeted to Roland as opposed to like just being
Tim.
yeah, just being like random dude who's collecting taxes and like delighting in his job.
So, did Tim end up becoming a gunslinger?
Yeah.
Following the trail of the Covenant Man, or the gunslingers?
I don't know the full legend, but it does definitely say that he like goes on to.
Because he uses the guns, and that's his thing now.
Because here's the other head trip. As far as I understand it, this is a story that Roland's mother read to him. So it's a story. Yet now Roland is living this story with how the Men in Black behaves and the path of the beam and everything like that. Like
It's like
It's
the
a-
ancient lore.
it's like a real head trip.
Yeah, and it like comes alive around him.
Yeah, like even with down to the electronics and and everything like that. Like there's something really head trippy about all of this.
I agree. There's
It was written that way too.
I definitely think that the kind of like the correlations that we're picking up on, I think is definitely on purpose. You do get a lot of the
there was also a part in the stories where it just kept tying back to.
yeah, it's usually when the Man in
Steve
Black
talked about
is
it
talking.
earlier. Yeah,
I think there's
he
a
like
part-
slips up and he's like, "Oh, sorry about that." Pretty much. He's like, "Did I say that out loud? Oh, damn." But he brushes it off like it's just some normal thing, and this kid's never seen that shit before. He's like, "What the fuck is that?"
I think Modus has left us. He had some really good things to say about this, which is too bad.
Yeah, I think
Modus!
he had to do some daddy work.
Oh, okay. The one amazing revelation I had this morning was as I'm reading it, and we're sitting around the campfire with Roland, and he is telling us these stories as the storm brews outside. This is a genius thing by Stephen King to pull in a well-known story and characters and people that we hang on to every word and say, we're going to tell you some other stories from this universe. And you could do what you want with them. But keep in mind, your character that you love is telling you these stories.
Yeah, I can actually.
And
sorry, finish up. Sorry.
And what it brings me around to is it's something that the Star Wars universe has struggled with for years. Going, how do we get away from the Skywalker family? How do we tell other stories about the universe that people care about and even listen to without completely isolating?
Like flogging
Through
fucking poor
flashback.
Mark Hamill. Like.
Exactly. But Stephen King figured it out in 2014 before they even did those 3 stupid newest movies, which would have been perfect.
So I actually do have to point out also that this book, the way that it's written, like starts with Roland, and even the middle part is Roland and the end is Roland, but it's kind of like a quick little excerpt, right?
Yep.
It's like a short little piece. There's probably a good dozen or more other short stories in his short story collection books that are just like this.
Like he could have had an older Han Solo after Return of the Jedi telling stories and morphed us into how the universe is handled now. Instead, they fumbled along.
The way it should be done though is Chewbacca at a fireplace. And then it goes into a flashback.
But this is just genius because he's already done the series, and he says, "Oh, I want to tell you some more stories about this universe that I made. How can I do this?" And he goes, "All right, well, Storm, yes." Slides it in there.
He's like, it's blizzarding outside, so what are we going to write about?
We're going to tell a story. And everybody sucked it right up and says, "Yeah, it fits. We like it."
There's another one, and I was going to suggest we like squeeze it in like one of these weeks. But it's like just like Roland and some vampires.
Seems
that
weird.
sounds fun. Which I thought, I mean, I'm not going to lie, whenever I first met the women of Sanctuary and the guy's warning
vampiric.
of the
They
women
eat the men.
eats the men's, and I'm like, it's a coven of it's a gaggle of vampires. Vampires are gonna
No,
suck
the
your blood.
Stephen King the short story is maybe 100 pages max, and
How
it's
big's the
very good.
motherfucking book? Is it like normal size paperback or is it the
It's a
bigger
short
one?
story that's like stuffed inside of a short story collection. So
Okay, so the fucking
I'll
book's
find
that
it. It's
big.
called The Little Sisters of Illyria.
But I just think it was just an amazing thing where so many people struggle with telling more stories in their universes, and this was brilliant.
Yeah, because like we like in all like before this came out, the series was done.
Yeah.
You know, so like he did kind of just like pick a spot and was like, okay, so what's gonna happen is right here, we're gonna write a section where we take a quick break, and it's gonna actually literally be a branching path along the side, and we're going to tell a little story in this little branching path that's like self-contained, and it doesn't negate anything, and it doesn't change anything, and there's no like I have to like rewrite parts of the old stuff to make it work with this new stuff because it's the perfect offshoot. It's just like an exact self-contained little bubble that kind of stays by itself, and then you can just jump right back into the main story like no like completely seamless.
It's gonna be interesting to watch the transition back, and
So,
even how it goes to wolves.
and the way that the books have been written so far, it is like since the Wastelands, there hasn't been very many days.
Well, and time's all screwed up. They've shown us that too.
Yeah, time's all
But
screwed up too. Yeah,
But if
It's not
if you
Monday
were
or Tuesday.
to, right, if
I
you were to
even
think of it
even at
though,
the
like
longest, it's like 3 weeks.
it's not even that. I
Yeah,
don't think
even at the longest.
because like in Drawing of the Three, that was a span of months
There's a little
and
bit of a stretch there, yeah. Because
months there, and then
they kind of start you off in the wastelands like after they had been in the forest for a while and had established a camp, and they were already like
yeah,
training,
and that's a couple
and,
weeks
yeah.
there.
I have a question. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now, but there's a character that keeps popping up in my head, and he comes up later, and I just want you to confirm the name for me. And like you don't have to give any details. Is it Mordred? I'm talking spiders.
Yeah, it's Mordred.
Okay. It's been driving me crazy, and I've been trying to Google it, but like you can't find it anywhere.
Is there something specific?
I guess I could
or-
have picked out a book. No, just the character popped in my head, and
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
like, is that his name? Because that's okay. Sorry, it's just been driving me nuts, and I meant to ask you.
kind of a little side note there.
Sorry.
No, it's
But oh shit, my mind's going all over the damn place.
fine. This story, what's gonna happen is we're gonna find the end of the Skin Man story next week. It's not a very big read for next week. Should be pretty light reading. Maybe able
About
to
an
get
hour
it
and
like
a
in like
half.
one sitting. Maybe an hour. Maybe,
Yeah.
maybe a little more. I read much faster than they read on the audiobooks, so
I found myself reading a lot faster.
I can
I was
probably,
like, oh shit.
yeah, I can probably read it about like 15 minutes faster than they do. Like finish an hour in 45 minutes, and they're like still going for like an hour. I really like the kind of like adventure tale that you get. It's almost like a fairy tale of its own.
Yeah.
I can probably point out, a bunch of different like similarities between that story and like the Talisman.
How about that story and Sword in the Stone?
It's all kind of the same story.
Since
though.
he's fucking with Merlin.
Yeah.
What?
It's all kind of the same story. I did like the part where they were talking about which beam they were on and which like it was the beam of the tiger,
Eagle?
and the path of the eagle, way of the eagle.
What did you say?
That's the dumb.
Jam bread?
And I do like you mentioned earlier. I think it's really cool how he kind of like validated Lion Witch in the Wardrobe by mentioning Aslan. You know.
Yeah.
It was
like-
awesome.
Like out of all the names.
like
Whenever I said that, I was like, "Are you fucking serious?" Damn.
think about like this. Like you've got the entirety of fictional writing is the tower itself. Like that's the tower itself, and these beams are like these creations that are holding up
Different
that are
genres.
holding up fiction, and each of the beams are like dedicated to a certain major story or a major series of stories. You've got like Lion Witch in the Wardrobe. For a while there, he was really into like the Harry Potter books. Star Wars being another one. Maybe you could have Lord of the Rings, because he does mention, like some Lord of the Rings things, and then you have, like the bits that he does where he has like horror and like psychological, like thriller style stuff, and each of these types of creations are what's holding up the fiction genre.
I think it is so cool.
So Stephen
like
King
you read-
writes this story of these characters whose job it is to make sure that the fiction genre stays afloat, stays together, stays standing.
It's like the ultimate page master. Same thing, same concept.
And then in order for them to like be worthy enough to keep the tower standing, they have to go through like every type of fictional situation that he can think to put them through. You've got Western, you got sci-fi, you got post-apocalyptic, you've got just like all the different like type of scenarios that he's slammed our characters through so far. There's even more coming up.
And
All
then you
within
hear
the
the
tower.
shit that Roland had been going through. But that's why all of the things that are from our time, all the shit that they knew, like Hey Jude, The Wizard of Oz, all the
stuff that
tiebacks.
bleeds
It's all
over, right? Yeah.
yeah.
I was waiting for Tim to hear "Hey Jude."
Yeah, for real. He
Right?
he
I was
starts singing
expecting it.
like, hey tree, that's where I live. I'm definitely looking forward to finishing this one. The end of the Skin Man story is very cool too. Because we know, number one, that like Roland doesn't die. So we know he lives. We also know that Jamie DeCurry survives past this, so he doesn't die either. But like that means everybody else in the whole story could possibly be dead by next week.
Still think it's the
Could
boy.
be a whole thing all over. I thought it was the boy that was the shapeshifter too.
Steve
I was
thinks
like,
it's the boy. He's putting his money on the boy.
I thought it was, but damn it, Steve, you got me thinking that way again.
Well, I'm excited to finish. It really sucks that Modus had to step away. I was hoping he'd come back in time to maybe give us some closing thoughts, but it's been almost 2 hours, and we got to call it a night.
Modus, come back. Ping him on the Discord as a final call.
He obviously can't come back. He knows where we are.
Also, Metal Mike,
Yep.
I
He'll put it in the Discord.
I turned on the fart machine again. If you need to get a good fart in before we call it a night.
Yes, I thanked him for reading with us because I'm sure he is.
I think he's very happy to have air conditioning right now.
For real. His air conditioner went out and it was like 76 degrees.
It was
Upper 70 somewhere.
degrees in his house.
Mm.
I think like 40, Steve.
Too bad I'm so far away, Metal Mike Rob. I got air conditioners at my fingertips. Warehouses full.
Warehouse is full of them, and you're not getting a single one.
You can't get that super dented one that was perfectly fine a minute ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Chan
Down
Chan,
Gonna put this on a
Forklift
recall.
this is your
Yes.
first. This is your first time through this one.
Yeah.
What'd you think? So far?
I got some like talisman vibes for some reason.
There's
I
definitely
really
like a
did.
young boy traveling in unknown territory kind of feel.
Yeah. And I don't know, like I'm really enjoying like the very first part of the book with young Roland. I really, really am enjoying getting to know him without her.
She's dead.
Who could that be? Rhea? Was that Rhea?
Just
She's
you
dead.
don't
talking
like
about?
her. I just
She's
don't.
been dead for a whole book now.
She was burnt at the stake.
What more could you do to the corpse?
Damn you, Susan! Oh, so young and pretty.
Miss Young and pretty.
So yeah, cool. Like we'll finish it next week, and then we'll start our Wolves of the Kala read through.
Yes, finally. This is what I've been waiting for the
These
whole
last
time.
three are very, very good books.
I
My
got a
last
feeling-
thoughts on that story, I just want to say it's
Yeah.
weird how Stephen King gives you characters like Jake, like Tim, that are too young to do certain things, yet can do the impossible, but at a certain point will say, no, you're too young to that. This man is choking you now. You know, it's like he picks a strange age for some of the people
Oh.
that he sends on far off distances, you know?
I
He
agree.
done that to humanize the character.
Dude, but like he could have
been a
sent,
hero
He
and
could have sent
then-
a 16-year-old out and accomplished the exact same thing.
Right.
Yeah, but he picks someone as
He
old as
pushed
Jake
this kid to the limit.
11, 12 years old.
that
Like-
really has no business being out there.
right.
A lot of shit's really fucking up right now already. And then now, oh, I'm sorry, your world is now over. Everything has changed. Everything is
He's
different.
also kind of like Disney, where he will kill anybody's mom or dad without a second thought. They are going to get murdered, or they're going to get mutilated, or captured, or abducted, or like some horrible, evil thing is going to happen to them, and they're going to watch every last second of it, and it's going to like change their whole fucking life.
Well, yeah. It's not like they're 20 and
This-
can deal with this shit. They're,
Right,
they're 11.
You're right. It has to like provide like lasting psychological damage for them to like create the character later on.
It is fight or flight. Fight or flight.
I
Well,
think the kid from Pet Cemetery might have been around this age too, or something.
no, he was like 6.
Oh, he was younger when he buried his cat.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. Well, like,
It's like Danny Torrance. He's super young too.
yeah, well, Danny Torrance is a little different than the kid from Pet Cemetery.
That kid was fucking. Whew.
Yeah, he was scary. That's very scary. Thanks for being part of the show tonight, guys. We did like a solid 2 hours without even batting.
2
an eye,
hours
so.
for 2 parts. That's not bad.
It's an hour and 48 minutes now, like right now. So, I don't like missing weeks, but I am glad that we are continuing to get together and kind of wrapping it up as well as we can.
Especially with the holidays coming up. Got
Yeah.
Halloween tomorrow.
Yeah. So
Well, ish.
we will be doing whatever we can. We may have to spread the reading out a little bit further than usual because of the holidays, but I don't think it's going to be that difficult to get these next books divided into like smaller chunks.
Oh, that's right. Gage was
Yes,
buried
yes.
in the cemetery.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
He was 2 years old.
that's right. He was got run over because he was wandering in the fucking street.
Yeah. He learned. Fucked around and found out.
Well, Pops is the one who really fucked around though, because he made a horrible call.
Yeah.
And that's why you can't choose what we have for dinner.
What do they say? Like the ground of a man's heart is stonier.
It was some crazy shit.
I want to read the book, but the movies.
You should read Pet Cemetery.
I think I'm just gonna
It's such a good one.
exclusively
gave
read
me,
Stephen
like-
King for quite a while because there's a lot of just great.
I'm usually not actually scared in books, but Pet Cemetery gave me nightmares. Like it,
I can honestly say that was one that scared me too. Like
Yeah.
to the core. Yeah.
Well, that's why I want to read it.
it makes you so uncomfortable sometimes when you're reading about it. And you're like, what the fuck? Like,
I think there's a lot of stuff that
Crazy.
he writes that makes me feel uncomfortable. That's not. Like,
yes,
It's not always the same thing either. Like he has a way of like getting a very visceral reaction out of you in lots of different
Yes.
situations. There was one where it was one of his detective novels, and it was just such an amazingly written section that was just like just stopped me. Like I had to stop reading it. I had to put the book down. I had to just kind of sit there and like kind of just like ruminate with it because it was just such a like profound thing.
you know, Joyland. It doesn't get enough praise, in my opinion, for like the. It is just so good to
I
me.
like Toyland, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just love it. It usually, like in different authors, I have a kind of aesthetic in my mind where I automatically go when I'm reading that particular person.
Yeah.
And in that book, it took me kind of out of the Stephen King version of things in my head, and like was like detective novel 1940s like
Yeah.
Noir.
aesthetic going on. I
Absolutely.
mean, I know it wasn't set in that time, but that's the kind of aesthetic that I was getting.
Well,
Like very comic booky.
that's the same kind of vibe that I got, even though it was more modern. Like I got that same vibe from the Mr. Mercedes books.
Yeah, yeah.
Like that one. Like even though it was a more modern like detective, it still kind of had that like old 50s like style,
noir,
like
kinda.
very
60s.
very damsel in distress kind of feeling, like with the. He definitely did a very good job. And like Chris saying that he's going to read exclusively Stephen King, like you can do that and still read probably like 5 different genres. Like it's not
Yeah,
like
that's
you're
true.
you're going to get tired of anything because just of the variety that you would have to choose from for like your next story. You wouldn't read the same type of thing twice.
Well, it's like this fairy tale right now. I'm waiting for it to kick into where I go, oh yeah, it's a Stephen King book.
Have
But-
you reached chapter 19 yet?
Yes, I'm past it.
All right,
But
so is
I-
the
but
ball
I agree,
starting to
if-
move now.
Yeah, the ball has moved, or it took a definite right turn in the story, and I'm.
I
But
got
at the same time,
theory.
he might just be writing a fantasy book.
Yeah.
And it's been very good.
Right on. I'm looking forward to that one. All right, guys, let's go ahead and call it a night. Thanks for being part of the stream. Thanks for being part of the show. We're gonna put this up on YouTube, so if you want to tell your friends or watch again or tell me how bad it was in the comments, it'll be up there. And I guess next week we'll be doing the same thing. We'll probably finish the book out next week.
Yep.
Shouldn't be too difficult to read those last few pages. And then we'll start our new book the week after that.
Alrighty, I'm super excited. Can't wait to fucking finish.
Say goodnight, Steve.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
Hi.
Hey, what's that? Oh my gosh, someone did a
Did you
thing.
get a discussion?
Something.
I saw the emote.
There was an explosion. I got a follow.
Oh, welcome.
That
Good
was
night,
nowhere
stream.
as good as my mom.
It is. It's pretty good.
Neat.
It's
Thanks,
dry.
guys.
It
I
is
think we
dry.
burnt the cake and
I like
the
follows.